score 40-36. While Judge Barbara Perez has it 39-37. All for the winner by unanimous decision, the crown jewel.
You know it's AB, always ballin', always boarding, a lot of bills. You know what's going on, man. You know, shout out to Crown Jewels Boxing, man. You know, my people. You know, they get it in over there, straight up.
Lamar Peterson giving a shout out to CrownJewelBoxing.com.
What's good, YouTube? Crown Jewel from Crown Jewel Boxing, back with a gem. Great night of boxing last week in Washington, D.C., down at the Capital One Arena. Gervonta Davis forced Hector Garcia to quit on his stool. He proclaimed no mas after round 8. He took a couple big left hands. One in particular came very close to dropping him. I commend Hector Garcia for being able to maintain his footing after being hit with that. He almost sat completely down on the canvas, but was able to gather himself. You know, he did what he could or what he had to do to make it out of the round. But upon sitting down on his stool, promptly told his cornerman that he could not see. They seemed to be trying to give him a pep talk, and he made it clear that he wanted no parts of coming back out. In the post-fight interview, he ended up saying that he had a headache and he didn't know where he was, so that's why he chose to discontinue the fight at that point, which, I mean, I know some may question a fighter's heart when he does something like that, but as somebody that's bear witness to a lot of tragedies in the boxing ring, I feel a little different. If he felt like he was damaged to the point where he could not safely continue, by all means, live to fight another day. So, Hector Garcia, nothing to hang his head about, performed a lot better than I expected, made it a highly competitive fight, but Gervonta Davis is just a very, very good fighter. The co-feature, Jaron Boots Ennis, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce the opponent's name, but he was a good test. A lot of people are badgering Boots online. I'm seeing things where he's called overhyped, overrated because of the performance last night. I really don't understand that. I think this is what happens with guys like Boots or Tank when people are used to seeing them knock everyone out. So somebody goes the distance and all of a sudden they had a bad night. But he pitched a shutout. I had Boots winning every round. He did get hit a little more often than I'm used to seeing him get hit, or more than I would like to see him get hit. But never in trouble. Took every shot that he was hit with well. And it's just extremely hard to knock out a guy who is in survival mode for pretty much the entire fight. His opponent was on his bike. And I'm not talking about like boxing effective movement. He literally ran the entire 12 rounds. So like I said, it's hard to knock a guy out if he's not actually willing to participate in the fight and create an opening. When he's in survival mode, just running, just trying to survive, especially if he's a high-level fighter and in very good condition, which I will say his opponent was in extremely good condition, it's just hard to get the knockout. But, you know, it's not called knockouts, it's called boxing. And, you know, he clearly was the better boxer last night, dominated, and like I said, pitched the shutout. On the flips to that, the fight directly before the co-main, Rashidi Ellis, a guy that Jaron Ennis got into it with at the press conference, the final presser, and he made some comments about being ready to fight Boots, not fighting him on that card last night because they weren't paying, and, you know, telling Boots he wasn't built like that, and, you know, he's been very boisterous about wanting to fight Boots as of late. Well, he boxed masterfully for about the first 5 rounds. 6th round on, his opponent's pressure began to get to him. He began to wilt. And in the 10th and final round, he was dropped twice. My reaction, Rashidi Ellis, while a very talented young fighter, if you have anything to do with his career and you want to see it continue to go in a positive direction, keep him as far away from Jaron Boots Ennis as possible. If you couldn't take the pressure of the young man you fought last night, I don't see you going past 4 rounds with Boots. That's that. I mean, Rashidi Ellis has some back to the drawing board. Like I said, you're still a very good fighter, but you're not ready for those elite fighters. You damn sure ain't ready for Boots. Then we have Demetrius Andrade fought Nichols out of Baltimore. I don't think anybody thought Demond Nichols had a chance to win that fight. And, I mean, that's pretty much how the fight played out. He was floored 3 times, was never really in the fight. Hats off to him for taking a beating over that 10 rounds and, you know, seeing the final bell. But he was outclassed, shut out, dropped 3 times. And, you know, Demetrius Andrade has successfully made his debut in the super middleweight division, and I'd like to see him get some of them big fights he's asking for. In the crowd during the Tank fight, they had to pause the action for a minute. There was a fight in the crowd. We learned afterwards it ended up being the Russell brothers against Meek Mill, and Gillian Wallow from $1 Million Worth of Game had to intervene. I'm glad they didn't actually fight. I mean, I'm glad they were able to get calm. I guess it was verbal altercation over whether or not Tank was going to stop, you know, his opponent last night, Hector Garcia, which he ended up doing. Gary Russell reacted to the Tank's knockout by saying, you know, he's flat-footed and slow, and that, you know, they better keep Tank away from him. There may have been a time when Gary Russell, I think, would have been very competitive with Tank. I just don't think that time is now. Unfortunately, I was ringside for Gary Russell's title defense against Mark Masayo when he lost the title. And he was soundly pressured, and just overwhelmed, I think, by strength by Mark Masayo, who's not nearly as strong as Tank. And I think he showed a decline in that fight. We haven't seen him fight since then. He's had a shoulder surgery since then and a long time off. We also know that Mark Masayo ain't no world beater, as he lost the title in his very first defense. So I think while a fight with Tank will present a really big payday for Gary Russell Jr., I don't think anybody wants to see that fight at this point, because I don't think Gary Russell Jr. can be competitive in that fight. So I think at this point it's probably best that Gary Russell Jr. continue training his brothers, as you know they're on their way up, seem to be looking to make some noise in boxing. And maybe time for him to walk away, as like I said, I think he's beginning to decline. Speaking of decline, former world champion Lamont Peterson made his much talked about return to boxing on the undercard last night. I was never really for it or excited for it, because if we remember his last fight, he was stopped by Sergey Lipinets, beat up pretty bad. Anybody who's seen him fight in his prime would agree that he was a shell of himself in that fight. He promptly retired in the ring after the fight, proclaiming that he knew it was time to go. For whatever reason, he was enticed to come back and fight on the undercard last night, and it just was a bad idea. I mean, I've seen it over and over again. I don't care. Once you're reaching a certain age and your body starts to decline and your skills start to erode, everybody's not Floyd Mayweather. You know what I mean? I don't care how good a shape you're in, you're not going to be able to compete with these younger fighters in boxing. Boxing's just too tough of a sport. And I mean, unfortunately, you know, Father Time has won the battle against Lamont Peterson at 38 years old. I hope to never see him in the ring again. You have nothing to prove, champ. You had a very successful and fruitful career. I hope that you were paid handsomely, although I do have questions about that, because I seen his brother Anthony say that they were still living in the projects after the Lucas Mortise fight, and Lamont had several high-profile world title fights prior to that. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if bad business was done to them or what, but I would think that he's in a financial position where he can do something else. He seems to be an intelligent man too. So bro, you know what I mean, you had a great career. Stay out the boxing ring, you know what I'm saying? You got stopped by a guy that wouldn't, you know what I mean, be able to be in the same arena with you 10 years ago. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. Father's time gets the best of all of us at a certain point. With that being said, that's all I have. Gervonta Tank Davis' first promotional debut outside of Mayweather was a resounding success. Not only did he get the win, he fought in front of over 19,000 fans, his 5th sellout in a row. I anticipate the pay-per-view numbers being pretty high. There was all kinds of celebrities in attendance. You know, Tank is a bona fide star. So kudos to you, Tank. Hats off. You know, the birth of Gervonta Tank Davis promotion, GTD Promotions, and best of luck in the future. So that's all I have for y'all tonight. To everybody else, keep your hands up, your chin down, your ass off the floor. Peace.